Today I would like to bring some information from the ministry. I have been unable to attend the last press conferences and briefings that were held, and I would still like to be able to today update the public, the general public, on some of the issues that we are being faced with and how we are dealing with them. Firstly, several times before I've been asked about the NEPA situation. I'd like to give a quick update on that. At present, I am awaiting a report which was requested from the Inspection Division, which is charged with maintaining quality and reporting on the quality of education. And as I await that information moving forward, I would like to reassure the general public that my goal remains steadfast in making sure that quality education is assured for the students at the NEPA, that the rights and the responsibilities of the management and staff are clearly defined, and that the institution lives up to its responsibilities as per the agreements made in providing, when government provided the subsidy for SBO education according to the subsidy regulations. So as soon as more information is available from those reports, and we have made a decision as a team moving forward, you will be updated. So that is just pertaining to, I know we've had several queries about that. We have been actively working diligently to come to solutions, and several meetings have been held. However, I am awaiting a final report which will give us a better view of especially the quality of education at NEPA at this time. As it pertains to several actions that have been taken that have not been totally clear to me, some of that information has not been clarified, and so I do not want to really go into things upon which I don't have all the information, or to bring personal issues to this floor. Moving on to the next topic, studying in the region. Several weeks before, in early December, as a matter of fact, after having made a decision as to which students qualified and would be granting study financing from the Studying in the Region budget, which is, to clarify for those who may be hearing this for the first time, a special fund that is funded by the Dutch government, OCW, Ministry of Education in the Netherlands. And previously, in years previous to this, we have done this with assistance from USONA. So this is the first year, and a ministerial decision, a Council of Ministers decision actually, was taken that a special account would be open so that these funds would not go directly to the general budget of St. Martin, and that we had to set up specific protocols and procedures in order to disburse these funds in an open and transparent manner, and to be able to be accountable to the Dutch government as to how these funds have been spent. So as a result of this, even though I had taken the decision since early December and expected that this could have been done within a week or two, this did not prove to be the case, and especially seeing that it has to go through an internal process within the ministry as well as an external process within other departments, such as within the Ministry of Finance and division that disseminates information. So there was some unforeseen delays that several were unclear, I would expect that this is a new manner in which, even though we expend funds to students from our own budget, and the new protocol and procedure that was established for this was similar to what we do. I guess because of the new account, etc., several extra controls were exhibited on it, but in the end, we were able to get the advice finalized just yesterday, and I was able this morning, thankfully, to sign off on those ministerial decrees so that the students who have been granted this special funding via the Studying in the Region funds will be able to be paid out during the balance of this week. So if there are any problems, I would like to ask these students, first of all, I extend the apologies of the ministry and government in general in the delays that you have had to deal with, and we assure you that such would not be the case in the future, as we now, I believe, all of us within the system understands now how it will be done in future. So to reiterate, I have finalized those ministerial decrees, which would then facilitate the students being able to receive their payments within this week. The next topic I would like to address is one that pertains drug awareness on St. Martin. As many of you may be aware, the marijuana issue remains a constant, and especially seeing our recent debates and discussions around the world, and also, I believe, here on St. Martin, on whether it should be legalized or not. It remains still, though, an illegal drug on St. Martin, and it has been signaled by the ministry that there have been several schools reporting that there are some suspicions where they may have found bags, etc., but have not been able to, quote unquote, pin it on any particular child at this time. So therefore, the ministry, through the Division of Inspection and the truancy officers, are currently working on a meeting with all the schools who have actually signaled that they have an issue with this case, with these cases then, and we are working on actually the Department of Education based on priorities, but this is also a priority for this minister, that we set a uniform policy, a discipline policy, which includes how we deal with issues as related to drugs, violence, etc. But drugs would fall within that as well. I believe all schools, I know then that all schools have their individual policies on how they deal with these situations. There is a zero tolerance policy, but of course the ministry has to be consulted when it comes to suspensions as well as expulsions. So the ministry is working together with the schools so that we can come up with uniform preventative measures. I believe an awareness campaign needs to be kicked off, and I will go a little bit into the other drug that has recently popped up its head, but right now, the ministry is organizing meetings on two different levels, one to determine what exactly are the main cases and how best as schools we can go forward. Some schools have not even rung the bell, so therefore we would like to include them as well in the discussions as to what their best practices are that other schools can learn from and also utilize in order to minimize the effects of drugs in our schools. This does not take away, of course, from parental responsibilities. But before I go there, I would like to inform the general public, but specifically students, parents, teachers, and all those affiliated in the schools, that the recent attention given to the drug called Molly, which is actually also known as ecstasy, and the difference is that they are now just making them in even more attractive forms for children. So this is a concern. This is a very dangerous drug which can cause serious health issues, and I believe that all parents seeing the World Wide Web and information being available at your fingertips should get themselves informed about the different things that are out there, the things that their children are discussing. Young people are discussing this, but I'm also hoping they're looking at the negatives of it. So as Minister of Education, I advise you, I implore you, I beg you to get to know the facts about these drugs, not just Molly, not just marijuana, but all the types of drugs that are out there. Don't get caught up in the hype, because these drugs have serious influences on the rest of your life. You might look back now, you might think now it's all very cool, but when you look back at some of the backlash you will face later in life, you will surely determine that it hasn't been worth it. And there are several entities that would have to be involved in this. So we are looking at first discussing with the schools, but also utilizing our CPOs, Turning Point, and others to bring an awareness to the community as to the dangers in drugs, and encouraging our youth to stay far away from this. So be vigilant. I would like to encourage the schools, continue to report any and all such cases to the Division Inspection, as this case and all these cases that have a serious effect on our youth.
In the previous press conferences, you were waiting a report from the board of NIPA. Do I take it that you have received or meet with the board of NIPA to discuss matters of importance?
No meeting has been held with my person and the board at this time. The only contact that the ministry has had directly with NIPA since I have been here is through the inspection department. And I believe the Department of Education as well, where they would have to submit their financial reports. So there's been back and forth, there have been letters back and forth, but as I have stated in previous press briefings, no meeting has been held between the board of NIPA and myself.
Any indication as to why this meeting is taking so long?
I think if anybody has been following over the past year, it has been actually a year now, there have been several incidences where the former minister has been severely disrespected by this board, and I can clearly state this, that even as a member of parliament, I was appalled at the level of disrespect. And though I knew of these incidences, I did extend what some may contend as the olive branch to initiate discussions with the board, which were not fruitful. So I will continue within the strategy that we are utilizing, but I really would not like to divulge what that is at this time.
Interestingly, you made mention earlier on of marijuana being used by our students. You further elaborated on the new drug, Molly. Seeing the fact that we are now observing Drug Awareness Month, is it in your power, or what are you going to do in your power as the Minister of Education to make sure that our youngsters are better informed as to the negativities that drugs on the whole can have on especially their health?
Well, as I stated before, I was quite happy in discussing with the ministry, the division inspection, and specifically with the truancy officers, because these are the ones that would get the reports on tardiness and on misbehaviors, as well as requests for suspensions and the like would come through that division. So to get a clear update from them as well as to where we are, what have we been doing, and since it wasn't specifically on my agenda as such that these awareness programs had to be done post haste, but definitely hearing the recent information that I've been hearing, it has crept up in terms of priority for our youth. We can continue to talk about how our youth are going astray, etc., but what are we doing about it? I think especially in the case of the marijuana issue, it's considered a soft drug, and most of the people who are using it consider it cool, or they use it for whether it's medicinal purposes and for religious purposes. So the general population who are not necessarily religious or ill and need to use it for medicinal purposes, so why can't I? We need to address this as a society, and it cannot just come from one ministry. I think it will require the society in general. It cannot come from government alone. We have to have these discussions within the community. I would like to see more awareness campaigns, yes, we from government side, but also within schools, and that's why we're having the meetings with the schools to do joint actions as it pertains to that.
Stephen, thank you very much for your questions in this round. Andrew Dick, the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
Back to NIPA, you said that there was a deadline, and the deadline has passed, and I guess the report from the inspection is what you're awaiting.
The deadline, if I may clarify, the deadline which has passed was for the submission of the financial reports, which they had received an extension up to 18th of December. So that's the deadline which has passed.
Okay, and so you did not receive the financials from the institution?
That's the deadline which has been passed, so it has not been received to date. Okay. Correct. And so therefore the report on the actual numbers of students, etc., that I have requested from, well, a report is required anyway in December. So they are quarterly reports, and the one that is being processed, I asked for extra information, and therefore the delay in getting it. There is already a draft, but I have asked for extra information.
Okay, but ultimately, Minister,
yes,
as far as the students are concerned, what is your continued vision? Because I know you're very passionate about NIPA from the onset, and with this happening, it's not very nice what's happening. So, I mean, what's your ultimate vision for the institution? I mean, I know you want to get it back on track.
It is definitely the goal of this ministry and myself to continue to support the institution, because the intent of this institution was to be able to provide students, especially coming out of the PSVEs, the St. Martin Academy PSVE, the VSBO type schools, so not the academic levels that can go directly to college, and those that have an interest and a vocation or a skill, and exploring that. There are many options that should be available at this institution. As a matter of fact, I know that some of the programs are running very, very well. So it is not to say, I do not want the image to be projected out there that this is not where you should go. As a matter of fact, one of the few one piece of information that I received that was actually positive is that there seems to be a upsurge again in the numbers, because this had been quite alarming during the 2015, that there had been a severe drop in the numbers. So I've heard that the numbers, I haven't seen it on paper, so that's why I'm saying I've heard that the numbers have increased, and that is at least a positive note. So there are still students showing the interest to go, and once I get that final report, I'll be able to ascertain whether they are able to receive the quality education that they deserve. These are the students that we want to prepare for the job market. These are the students, it requires a close cooperation with the private sector as well. And there have been certain agreements and liaisons already created. This institution will then also have to create more opportunities for students to be able to actually execute their work programs, because you cannot only do classroom lessons or practical lessons in the classrooms. You should be able to have practical experience within the workforce. So there is a lot of collaboration that's needed with the private sector. So that is a goal of this minister, is to make sure that that is done optimally, that all are living up to their responsibilities, because government is subsidizing this school. Yes, based on the articles of incorporation of the foundation, we've done it in such a way that government is not interfering. But in any case where government can prove that the quality of education is not being executed as supposed to, as well as the fact that the subsidy is not being used in the way that it's intended, government does have steps that they can take. So this is not any type of a slap on the institution, the staff, or the students, or the management, etc. We as government just have to make sure that it's being done correctly.
And as far as the director is concerned, do they have a director now?
I believe during since they had fired the director, there was an interim director that was there, and then they hired an executive director. So they do have an executive director at this time, as far as I know.
Okay. In the Prime Minister last week said that he was going to talk to you about the fire station training facility to get accreditation for them. Do you know anything of it, or has?
As you know, the Prime Minister left for the Netherlands shortly after that, so those are things that we'll have to take up upon his return.
Okay.
Andrew, thank you very much for your questions. Let's start round two. Stephen, do you have follow-up or additional questions?
Minister, as it pertains to students studying in the region, are you able to provide us with some information as to how many students are studying in the region, what are they studying for, and where in the region? Okay,
I did not come prepared with those type of details for this meeting, but I would be able to provide you with that in writing at a later date if you don't mind. But this has been done, I believe, 2013 onwards, that we've been granting students the opportunity for this fund. I think many don't understand it is not the regular study financing. It does not come from St. Martin's budget. Some of the restrictions that are within the regular study financing are a bit more lenient in the studying in the region requirements. Of course, you still have to prove that you are able to, that you've been accepted at the school, that you can follow the course of study, that it's within your interest area, etc. But many of the times there are students, for instance, who we've been able to help, who are right here doing USM courses, and maybe they were already paying it through their own means, and it's just an assistance that they were able to get, because the studying in the region budget usually only grants the recipient for 1 year. Sometimes it's a student in transition to finalize some documents so that they can qualify for the regular study financing. So I know in the past we've done for literally areas in the region, so including St. Martin, Aruba, Curacao, St. Thomas, in different areas like I believe, where's the Monroe College, St. Lucia? Yes, but I believe the student went to St. Lucia, I'm not sure. So, and as long as the student is not going to the Netherlands, it's basically considered in the region. So that would give you a synopsis of it, but if you still require the details as to the numbers, I think I said it in a couple of press briefings back, how many students were awarded and for where, but I'll be able to send that information to you.
And approximately how much is Holland making available for this purpose?
329,000 euros.
In sports, have you been able to sit and discuss matters of importance with the NIS and Sports Federation?
The NSI?
NSI.
Sit and discuss, no, but we've been in contact with each other. There was actually a couple of advices that had to be processed for the NSI. It is definitely the government's intention and my intention to continue to utilize that foundation to bring all of the execution of sports and the development of sports under one umbrella. There's also a close cooperation with the Sports Federation. I don't know if any coverage was received of it, but I believe 2 weeks ago there was a young athletes, there was a whole conference where 10 sports, all the young athletes, promising, aspiring athletes were chosen, and they are going to be the ones that will be training for national competitions in the 10 sports. So that was an initiative of the Sports Federation, but it has the cooperation and the blessing of the NSI as well as the sports department. That NSI is still in development, so it is not completely finalized in terms of its operations as yet. The fusion between foundation upkeep and them still needs to be finalized, so there are several other aspects. But we are focusing on preparing national teams, and therefore the foundation will be very key in being able to do so, because the foundation will be able to also be able to look into getting funds internationally to assist us in being able to prepare our student athletes as well as our national teams. So we're focusing on school sports at this time. We also have a cooperation with Curaçao Foundation for the Development of Sports, in that I believe 2 sports have been chosen, that the winners of their school competitions will travel to Curaçao to compete with some of the former Dutch Antilles as well. So that's another way to promote school sports on St. Martin.
We have the Carifta Games coming up. We also have the Central American and the Caribbean Games. Any information forthcoming as to what sporting events St. Martin will be providing athletes for?
I don't have the direct list, but as I told you before, the aspiring athletes, they were looking at 10 different sports. Initially, the ministry was promoting 7 sports, but to be able to take part in the CANOC, I believe, there's 2018 Barranquilla, Colombia. Yeah. Is it in Colombia? There's a games that St. Martin is gearing towards. We are also having athletes that are taking part in the Carifta, but I'm not sure exactly which sports at this time. I do know for sure that the swimming is taking part, but I'm not sure about all the other sports.
And for Carifta?
For Carifta, I said it's swimming for sure, but there are 10 sports. I don't want to start naming them off and reach to 8, but it's basically not baseball, volleyball, basketball, athletics, swimming, track and field. I see I got to 5. I expected that would happen off the top of my head. But there are 10 sports, and I can get it from the St. Martin Sports Federation for you, which the 10 sports are. But I believe table tennis is also one of them, and judo. And they keep coming to me as I go along.
You're
but there are 10 sports.
Carifta Central America.
No, this is the 10 sports that are being for the Central American Games.
Okay.
But for Carifta, I don't have a list at this time.
Question. As you look forward to the betterment of the development of sports on St. Martin, would you therefore say that we are where we ought to be? And if not, what can be better to see to it that we get to the level that probably other countries in the Caribbean are?
That's a very loaded question. if we are where we ought to be. Of course, no one will say we are where we ought to be. Everyone knows that on St. Martin, for some reason, the 16 square miles that we have has an extraordinary amount of talented young people in many areas, not just in sports, but in arts, in even in academics, extremely intelligent, but well-rounded students. And we have not, over the years, done what we have to do as a government. However, many associations and federations have done a lot. And so it behooves us now to guide the process. What we've been doing since 2012-13 that I can talk about is trying to strengthen the institutions that are executing it. So the St. Martin Volleyball Association, the Basketball Association, all the different associations, giving them courses in being able to, because many of the times the same people doing the same work. So, and the board members are the ones executing as well. And so because we are a small country, that's just the reality of our situation. But if you are busy organizing, you don't have the time to finalize all the paperwork. And that's why sometimes, a lot of times, the request for funding and financing comes in a little bit too late. And then there's a huge rush because they have to leave the next day or 2 days. And everybody points fingers at government, but we have a policy in place that it should be in at least 2 months prior to the activity. So we saw strengthening the abilities of the foundations to put financial statements in place, to do what they have on an administrative level as well as what they're doing on an execution level, so that they are able to then request funding, not just from government, but from other entities as well. Getting our sports facilities up to par, that has always been my goal, and it will continue to be my priority moving forward in even just these few months to get that going again. Because as I noted upon entering, I saw that the second phase of the Raoul Lillard Sports Complex had been pushed down to 217-18. So that is definitely moving up to 216-17 for me in terms of moving that forward. So having our facilities up to par and assisting our associations in their organization, making sure that they have their international affiliations, because through international affiliations they can bring in people which the affiliations will pay for, and which has been done because the Volleyball Association has been bringing in people all along which government has not contributed to. So because of their good affiliation with international bodies, those bodies send trainers who train trainers, and then it's paid forward, that it's then trickles down. I would like to see, Stephen, that our school sports grow to the level where then the students have more opportunity to play. And because what is missing as our students go on the international level is statistics. So we have to build up the level of keeping proper statistics in each sport, reporting this to the department, so that these students, when they move on, have the background to stand on. Many of our athletes, when they get to the United States or even to Europe, almost have to start from scratch because we didn't have that in place. So that's what I believe we need to start doing right away.